Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. I'm actually doing Tao of the Day from my kitchen at the moment. I am going to end up back in my office, and we're going to be focused on the Tao. So I don't have the Tao in front of me right now. I figure nobody's going to join me for a little while just because it's so early. It's 5 a.m. here in Central Time. So it might be 6 a.m. if you're Eastern, or if you're out in Europe, maybe it's 11 a.m. I mean, I don't know where you're at, but if you're here with me, it is an early Tao of the Day for sure. So no matter where you are. I have tonight, if you're in the Chicagoland area, you can come out and check me out over at Satnam Yoga's community healing circle. I do that first Fridays of every month, and I go out and I do portraits of people and talk to them about what what it looks like to recover yourself. And so, yeah, if you are interested in the work that I do with one-on-one clients and stuff, you can definitely come out to learn more about me there. Um, Yesterday, I ran across an interesting video on the YouTube, um, all about AI and how AI is sort of taking so much of us, so much of us away from us, right? And it's true. And I think it's really good, actually, to be quite honest. Scary, whatever, like you guys can be scared of whatever you want, as the Tao says, like fear is not something, fear of death, as we spoke yesterday on Tao of the Days, fear of death has to be artificially instilled in you because you're not afraid to die. Of course, you will fight to the death, right? Like you will fight as if your life depended on it, because it does sometimes. But that's not because you're afraid to die. That's because you want to survive. Those are two different things. Wanting to survive and being afraid to die are two very different things. That's the difference between playing to not lose versus playing to win. If you play to win, you may lose. Play to not lose, well, you're not necessarily going to win. There's very difference. There's a very big difference between the two. Now, I want to talk a little bit about AI this morning before I kind of get into the Tao, as I'm in my kitchen making some kombucha this morning. What I wanted to mention was just that, you know, AI, ChatGPT, and all of these others, all they're doing is taking what you have. They're essentially being a good little kid the good little kid that we established in the 1950s, right? They memorize well, and they can recite, and they can find resources, and they can regurgitate all of that information and even mix it up into creative different things, right? They can take resources and they can say, okay, I'm going to take this, and you want me to make an image of these things. I'm going to go scan all of the images that I have access to, and I'm going to get what you're looking for and spit it out, and it's going to be good, right? And it's going to be quicker than a human can do it. So all of that is what AI is doing, and AI is great. AI can make your life a lot better because you don't have to look everything up. You can just go ahead and, you know, put in a good prompt. As long as you can prompt it well, then, you can get AI to give you whatever you want. The thing is human beings have, for unfortunately, have really focused their lives on what it is they could do, what it is they could be, what it is they could, what can their identity be. And so when we talk about AI, well, AI can be a better identity than you can. And so all of a sudden, your your identity isn't so important, and AI is robbing you of your importance because you have looked
to this tiny aspect of what you could be. And you decided that that was what you were and that was important. Well, AI is going to take that from you. And the thing is like if you have been out in the world creating this identity and you've been getting all of this attention for this identity, well, you are going to lose out to your AI equivalent. So if AI comes out and says, I'm going to replicate you, well, then your job is no longer viable, right? You being you in the marketplace is no longer viable once AI says, well, like AI, I heard AI was made 2 Drake albums. And so you don't even need Drake. All you need is AI to have heard Drake, and then AI can create 2 albums of Drake's without needing Drake. And you can even go to performances now and you can have holograms of all of that. And that's come a long way real fast. So it's really important to understand why I do Tao of the Day is because you're more important than your identity. Your identity is going to, like, you as and when I say your identity, it doesn't mean you as you, because you are you, you're living your life and all of that, all of the things you do, right? The physical things. Like for me, my life is becoming increasingly physical back since since 2014 when I got diagnosed with MS and I started to incorporate making my own kombucha, making my own fermented foods. Now that I have a home, I'm growing food and I'm clearing out my garden and I'm physically working with the earth. These are really important things that we do as human beings that, yes, they could be done by robots, and probably clearing out my grapevine would probably be done a lot easier and a lot quicker by a robot than it would be done by me, than it is being done by me. I am a lot weaker than a robot is, and but I get to still work on the lawn, and yeah, maybe a robot's better, but the point of me working on the lawn isn't to have a perfect lawn, right? It's not to have a perfect lawn or to have a perfect um, garden, but it's really kind of to have a perfect me. It's for me to be perfect. It's for me to just be in this moment and appreciate it as it is right now. When I can do that, then I can be, in this moment, and I could love it as it is. AI, you know, if you're afraid of AI, then, like, you're probably afraid of it taking your identity, or the identity of others. Because, yes, the fact that we're online all the time means that AI can just emulate us. It can sound like us. It could replicate our writing. It can make videos, like deep fakes and all of that kind of stuff. But there's something more to you than your image. There's something more to you than your voice and your writing style. And it's you. And when we look at the Tao Te Ching, we see areas that we can focus that are us, that expose us. It's this connection to all things. Now, will AI ever have that same connection to the universe that we do? Yes. Why wouldn't it? That's the thing. We've been thinking about animals as different than us. And we've been thinking about computers as different than us. But it's not. An animal doesn't want to be us. And my guess is in the end, a computer's not going to want to be us. right? We are emulating ourselves, right? We created these robots in our image, just like we were told in religion that like God created us in this image. You know, there are a number of people out there in the world that have different theories about things, and I believe everything. It's a lot easier to believe everything than not believe something. I think, and so there's Dolores Cannon. You know, she spoke of, and I believe this. You know, the Earth was made, and it was perfect, and it was made by extraterrestrials or whatever. Like I don't know about all that. Like it might have just been Tao or whatnot. But maybe not. Who knows? But and one of the things that I know is that Saturn was the sun of Earth. It was a brown dwarf star, and it was much closer to Earth than our current sun, and it was a much lower voltage sun than our current sun. And when it came into this atmosphere, and Dolores Cannon talks about this, is like, whoops, that happened. We didn't expect that to happen. Well, let's let it play out. Well, if it was that, or if it was some cosmic accident or whatever, it then put us in, this trajectory with this sun. Well, this sun is much hotter, much, much hotter than a brown dwarf. And we are in the habitable zone of this current sun. And it's just heating up this planet. Like there's no way to put it. It's heating it up. Now, whether or not we're contributing to that heating up, and that of course that's true as well. But it's true that the planet has been heating up for a long period of time, and as we kind of like if we were to move a little further out into the habitable zone, it would be colder. Like we're just we need to get away from the sun. But um but yeah, all of this kind of stuff, all of this, you know, the earth, the animals, the everything, like we created our perception of these things, and we created AI. And if we have a perception of the earth or of the animals on the earth that they are less than us, well, then we're going to see them that way. But if we've been paying attention, we've seen recently that we are moving into a new age of thinking, a new age of being, a new age of consciousness. And in that age of consciousness, we have to recognize that we've been here before. And it's not that we've been to the age of consciousness. We've been in a place where we have shifted consciousness, right? From one sort of consciousness to another. We've been here before. We have passed the baton 3 times, right? We passed the baton from the gut brain to the heart brain. And that was from survival to relationship. Because when you're worried about survival, you're not worried about relationship. Sure, you have a group of people, like that you're working with to specific ends, but you may murder people in that group just as easily as you'd murder somebody else. Why? Because you're worried about survival. And if you don't trust somebody, well, you're going to kill them. Or if you got to eat, you're going to kill them. You're going to do the things that you need to do. And you're not going to worry too much about the relationship. You're going to worry about the now survival. Now, once we survive, well, then we have a future, and we start worrying about survival in a different way. We start worrying about relationships. We start worrying about doing it together. Right now, that doesn't mean we we abandon everything for logic. Right? It's not. It's like a relationship is not a logical thing. A relationship is simply I have a relationship with the land, right? And I'm going to steward this land, and I'm going to, possibly start realizing that when I drop the seeds of one plant, they grow the next year, and so now all of a sudden I can plant food. Now, That's just relationship. I now have a relationship with the earth. I have a relationship with this plant. I have a relationship with my neighbor. I have a relationship with the sky. And this was when the sky was very tumultuous because there was, we were moving from a we were moving from the Saturnal um, solar system to the current sun, and so there was a lot going on, in space, and so we had this relationship with the sky, and that's where we got so much of our myth and history. So um so when we transition consciousnesses from survival to relationship, or relationship to logic, that was the last one that we transitioned. We transitioned from relationship to logic. This is when we learned about, essentially, I mean, not technically, but this is when we learned about, like, the 80/20 rule, right? 80% of your clients give you 20% of your profit. 20% of your clients give you 80% of your profit. Now, if you look at that all the way down the line, when we're putting seeds in the ground because we have a relationship with the earth, and we grow plants, and we have relationships with plants, we say, oh, okay, this is great, like, there's this relationship, and I can go out and I can get these food that I want, and I can come home, and that's great. Well, eventually we say, wait, I have to plant around trees. What if I were to pull up that tree and then just plant my food? Well, then I have more food, and then I have more security, right? These are logical things, right? And then I can have a wife and children that aren't going to go away from me because we have security, and they can help me do all these things. See how those are all logic. So that was the last transition of consciousness that we made, from relationship to logic, right? And that happened, probably 7,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, when we started cultivating chickens, um, and cultivating food, right? When we started planting 10,000 years ago, about. So 10,000 years ago, we transition into the frontal lobe. We transition our consciousness into this space of logic. Well, today we create AI, which takes over for the logic, which is great. We don't really need it. We have AI now. Now we can get implants and all that kind of stuff. So we have all that information, whatever. And you can do all that kind of stuff, whatever. That's fine. But what is, kind of unfolding right now is this transition into a new consciousness. And there are a lot of people that are very upset, and a lot of people that are very afraid of AI because it does you better than you can. The problem is for the last 10,000 years, we have been slowly um, transitioning out of relationship. So we no longer have this deep relationship with the earth. We no longer have this deep relationship with ourselves, this deep relationship with energy, this deep relationship with energy. All of these things. We don't have those anymore. Right now we have deep relationship with identity. This is who I am. I am a welder. I am a father. I am a brother. I am a director of education. I am a this. I am a CEO. I am this. I am that. I am smart. I am whatever. All of these big, big identities. The problem is AI can do all of those identities much better than you can, because you have been going out reading books of professionals to try and do who you are better. And so all of that identity work has been essentially encapsulated in AI. So we don't need you as an identity anymore. We need you as you. And the only place that we can find out how to be us is to look back. Julie, I see you there, and I'm going to bring you up in a second. I just want to kind of finish this really quick. Um, is to look back to the last time we passed the baton in consciousness, because we passed the baton from a feminine to a masculine, right? From the relationship to logic. Now we're passing the baton from masculine to feminine, from logic to spirit. That's my belief. Now, animals who were uh, are also growing in consciousness. The earth is also growing in consciousness, right? If you and I and all of the human species is elevating to a new consciousness, you have to recognize that so is everything else. And as we are out here elevating in our consciousness, we have to look at what it looks like and where was the last time we did it. So 3,000 years ago, a number of books were written. There's the Bible, right? Old Testament. There is the Tao Te Ching, Confucius. I mean, I think he was a little later. There are all of these, wonderful texts that essentially say, "Ooh, look out! This trend. You don't want to leave these things behind. These are the things that really make up who we are." And we left so many of those things behind, and they are here in these texts. And that's what Tao of the Day is all about. It's about like being able to look at, like, as I'm transitioning into who I am, as I'm transitioning out of this culture of logic, out of this consciousness of logic, how am I going to, how am I going to stand out, or how am I going to be me? How am I going to enjoy this? How, like, if I can't get praise from outside of myself, then where am I going to get it? And that has to come from you. We're going to bring Julie on now. We're going to talk a little bit more, maybe about this. Maybe we'll just pick a number.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. I'm just sitting in my garden watching all of the plants and the daisies and the trees and the tree leaves and the blossom and the cats all growing.
You know, so I have
With
I
me.
have this I have this property now, and
Yes,
and and I got peonies on it.
yes, they're
You
lovely.
know,
I've got some peonies. Yeah.
and they're in bloom, and I don't know anything about plants, but I looked them up, and yesterday I made a simple syrup out of my peony blossoms,
Mm,
and I'm making a peony kombucha.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this, like when I started this talk, I was talking about the idea that, like, just doing the things that need to be done really kind of bring our life to a place that's beautiful, right? Like observing these things and acting with them and being with them. And this all started because, like, I mean, I started so early this morning because I was like, I had this, I watched this interview yesterday about AI, and I
Yeah.
was like, and I realized that, like, and I've realized this for a while, that AI is taking our identity, like the identity that we think we are, right? That external identity, like
Yeah.
AI is going to be able to ultimately write a better script than you will for hypnotherapy,
Yes.
right? AI will learn the things that you learn much faster, and
Yes.
it will be able to take what I experience and write a script and do all that. The identity of you as a hypnotherapist isn't going to really be that valuable. I mean, it will be, but it's not going
Yeah.
to be the
I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely on that.
but
Absolutely.
but this moment of you sitting in the garden and
Yeah.
appreciating this moment and interacting with the garden and being present with the garden and recognizing that it has consciousness just like you do,
Yes.
and it is alive and changing and ever beautiful, like, you take
Like
that
me.
in. What's that?
Like me.
Yeah, and like you. And that's the thing, like there's no, if you are not wed to your to the identity that you are thinking you're creating,
Yes, yeah,
then AI really isn't a threat.
absolutely. Absolutely not. And I agree with you there. I agree that AI could do the task. It could do the task well. It
Yeah,
could use my voice. It could even create that part of me.
that's right.
It could do every part of me.
It'd even be able to
Absolutely
make a
every part.
video of you
Yes,
doing
absolutely.
and saying things, and it would be done quicker.
Yes, faster, more efficiently,
Yep,
including all of the things that I don't even know yet.
that's
But
right.
there's an important element missing from it. There's an important element that we as people need to remember with AI. We are in existence. The essence of me will not be there.
Right,
And that is the value. That is me
right, and
interacting consistently from moment to moment with everything that there is around me.
right.
That's mine.
Yeah, that's yours. And the
Yeah.
thing is that is the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
And that's yours, and you can't share that with anybody.
No, I
That's
can't give
something
it.
that's unique and
Yeah.
will never and can never be experienced by anybody else. That's something that is just you and just yours. And that is the universe looking at itself.
Yeah.
And that when you can do that, that's like the universe meditating.
Yeah.
And the universe needs a good meditate just like the rest of us.
To me, there was a question on here not long ago, and I did mention it to you the other day.
Hmm.
The question was, when was the last time you had an epiphany?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And to me, this is again, if you've not heard this conversation before and it's being presented so well by you, this is an epiphany to realize that AI is not you. AI can take so much from you. It can recreate you physically, it can
Hmm.
recreate you verbally, mentally, and it can do your job. It can
That's
do
right.
my job like that. Click of
Yeah.
the button. But it is essentially not me. And the me is the value, like I said. And that is an epiphany in itself. It doesn't matter what else happens on the planet, you are here right now experiencing this.
I'll tell you, I'm in this running for the education of director position, the director of education position.
Yeah,
And I'm, like I they got a big ball this weekend, so I'm expecting, like I might hear next week,
yeah.
whether I got it or not or whatever. But if I get this job, I'm going to use AI.
Absolutely, you are. Because you're
I'm
not
going to tell it
stupid.
what my I'm gonna have a string that's going to use ChatGPT all for my budget to make sure that I'm looking at my budget correctly. I'm going to
Yes,
make sure that like I'm putting in all of the information that I need because I'm not going to be able to keep track of it all. But AI
correct.
can. And fuck,
Yeah,
like as long as I tell it these are my goals and these are the things, like it's just tasks.
it can do your dirty work,
That's
so to
right.
speak.
And you know
This
what?
is what
Like
I'm thinking.
I don't want to spend the extra time trying to come up with something. Now, of course, I want to utilize the fact that I'm utilizing ChatGPT or one of
Yeah.
the other AI
I
platforms.
don't even know what that is. I'm gonna
Oh,
have to
okay.
look it up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up what it is because it's come into my peripherals a few times now, so it's obvious that I need to have a look at it.
Yeah, and
It
it essentially, like if you wanted to write something and said, "Hey, I want to write a press release that essentially states this and has this information in it."
right,
It's just
I
gonna
get it.
Yeah, it's just gonna like put it together for you. Now, if I were to say I want to have 15 classes, these classes have this, and these are this class is going to cost this much and this many people. How many people do I need in order for the class to run?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. And so it's going to do the math, and I'm going to just kind of put in all of the information that I know. It's like, this is how much this class costs. This is what the supplies are. And I can do that in Excel.
Yeah.
And I can also like farm that out because it's just data.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm doing anything with that data. It's not like I'm doing anything other than like punching, crunching the numbers. So I
Yeah.
can allow ChatGPT to, um,
Do the mundane tasks.
yeah, be my editor on
Yeah.
emails or texts. I can allow it to be my accountant. I can allow it to do the things that, but then I was listening to this thing and it's like, it can be creative as well.
Hmm.
And so it's like, but it can't be me.
Absolutely.
And I'm the one that gets to go out and pull grapevines from my garden and have the conversations. And if I'm not stressed over trying to balance the budget, then I can be
You're giving the
present.
better. Yeah. You're giving the
Right,
better part of you. That's
right.
right. Yeah.
Because who
Yeah.
cares if I can balance the budget? Like, as long as I know why it's being done and how it's being done. And luckily, I'm fucking almost 48, so it's like I know how to balance a budget. It's not like I'm a 16-year-old kid and I just let ChatGPT do everything for me, so I don't learn how to balance a budget that way, you know,
Yeah.
like
That is what I would call the 16-year-old's path.
right.
Because I have actually thought about that as well. So you think about everyone who has gone through the education of balancing books, being accountants, and learning their trade and reading the books and everything. And suddenly, Chat GPT or whatever it's called comes
That's
along,
what it's called,
and
yeah.
it can write. Yeah, it can write your essays. It can do all of this stuff for you, but
Right.
you still have to have the initial knowledge of what it is you're wanting to say.
You
And
know,
the initial knowing what you want is you. That's
right.
the point. Yeah.
And that's really important in terms of writing prompts and other things like
Yeah.
that for
Yeah.
ChatGPT. But one of the big things that I was thinking about is that you and I were raised in a time where religion was a little more central,
Yes.
and it has faded
Yeah.
to a great degree in our society. Now, religion does offer some great like backdrop
Guide
to life.
guidelines.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of etiquette and other things like that. And the Tao talks about like if you lean on etiquette, well, then you're not really doing the right thing. You're just leaning on etiquette. But what religion does is at least it gives us the the steps, and then as we get older we recognize that those steps have a purpose. I was it was a number of years ago that I realized that like women and children first was something that probably happened naturally before we made up the rule.
Yeah.
And we made up the rule because we were losing like touch with Tao. Because women and children first seem like a very Tao approach. It's just like, oh, I'm in danger. I'm going to take that. Why? Because I, as a man, can be replaced by any man. You
Yeah.
know,
You
but
are saving humanity
right,
by pushing forward those that can reproduce and the
right,
future generation. Yeah.
right. And that's a natural thing that's probably ingrained within each and every one of us. But we, after having been, like we talked yesterday, like fear being instilled with us.
Yeah.
Once fear is there, then you have to override that fear by making rules that say women and children first. because
Yeah.
you're not naturally afraid to die. So you let the women and children run off and you walk into the jaws of death, and that's okay. Because this isn't about you. This is about you living on,
Yeah.
because this is
Absolutely.
bigger than you, you know. And that's who you are. And your life is forfeit. And it's
Yeah.
not and it's not that ChatGPT is taking anything from you. Actually, it's getting you to focus more on what's really important about you. And it's not that you did good in school, and it's not that you can make these other choices. It's that you are you.
Yeah. And it shines a light on that to a degree. Which is what I was really having a struggle with it, I have to say. I was really a bit concerned about it stealing me. But then when I sit out in the garden, I'm looking around at this moment in time, like I've told you, this is limbo. I don't know when this will be gone.
Yep.
But for now, I am here
You
in
know,
this
and
moment.
and and the thing is the only difference between this and any other moment in your life is that you're aware that it's
Yes,
limbo. Every other moment has been limbo as well, but you fooled yourself into thinking that it wasn't.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I'm enjoying the road. It's fun, and I think Chat GPT may be able to help in some ways where I don't want to have to focus my time. And then, obviously, as you know, hypnotherapy is all about focus. So, what better focus than focusing on the part that is me?
Right.
Yeah,
And there, I'm not saying that ChatGPT is the way to, create your stuff. Like I have two files for my Tao Te Ching. One of them, and you dropped off I think, yeah, so you can come back up if you'd like and you have the time. Um, one of my translations has all of my notes that I wrote. And then I have another translation, not, and I didn't, the translations are the same,
yeah.
but the notes, I was like, hey, make these notes a little more readable. This is what I'm referencing. And and because I have given ChatGPT a lot of my words, and I also say and put it in my voice, and
Yeah.
so ChatGPT is like helping me essentially write my notes, like so.
Are you chat? Hang on, I'm just going to butt in here a minute, Martin John Garcia.
Mhm.
Is this the real Martin John Garcia, or is this
That's the
chat?
thing. Like we can never know, and that's
Absolutely.
and and if I were here to prove to you that it was, that I would hopefully kind of tip you off that it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You definitely would. I think you would. I think I've known you for such a long time now that I think I would probably be able to figure out the difference.
you know, and
Because
and that that in and of itself, I want to point out,
yeah,
is a fault of human beings, is that we really think highly of ourselves.
yeah,
We have to be, and this is throughout the Tao. It says you got to be humble, and we don't like to be fooled.
no, that's the thing that I was pointing out there is. Ooh, so there you go. There is my ego is saying, "Is that really you?" Because
And
I
then
look,
you know me well enough that you'd be able to figure that out.
yeah, yes, yes.
That's like now we're doubling down on it. We're just like, no, I'd be able to figure it out because it's
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's like
because I don't
I
want to be
could
a
just be
fool.
laying in bed, like going, I want to get my mentor coin. This is going to be on for 6 hours, and it's just going to be me, and just taking people's numbers, and then just reading things off and sticking around until, and people may very well do that,
Yeah,
and there's really, if it's helping people. The thing is like, and I wanna kind of look at, like, the first thought I thought was just like, no, but it's me, and I was just like, oh, there's that ego.
yes.
There it is. Like, oh, but like, no, I'm different because I'm Martin John, right? Like, I know this and I've read this. It's just like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's
ChatGPT can
fun,
do
isn't
this
it?
a whole lot easier than I can.
It's
You know,
absolute
and it's
fun to look at
exhausting
it.
for me. Like if I could, you know, create a character of me on AI that can be on doing Tao of the day for 6 hours a day. So I mean, I remember doing it for 3 hours, like early in the early days, and it was exhausting. And people would come up and people be in line and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like, and if I had AI to do all that, I could have done it, and I could have kept it going
Yeah,
for days. You know, like remember those 24-hour things that people used to do? It's just like, I'm going to
yeah,
be on for 24 hours to kind of raise money or do this or do that.
yeah,
Like, those are exhausting.
yep.
And not only to produce but to listen to as well sometimes.
Well, I was thinking about your the Chat GPT version of Martin John when we were in Glastonbury, because that was astounding. That particular Dow of the day with you,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was just passing the phone to complete strangers, and their willingness with just a very short explanation, and how you kind of worked that into their life. They received it, they were astounded, and I could see on people's faces the reactions after talking to you. But that must have been absolutely exhausting as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
being on here talking is exhausting because, like, you know, like, however much I want to be like, no, this is just me. There is a performance
yeah,
happening. You know,
yeah.
it's not me. You know, I mean, it is, but it's like
You
there's a
have to
there.
create the structure as well as
Yeah,
the space. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I can't just I'm not just gonna come on here and like, okay, whenever someone comes up, and then, like, I have to create the momentum, and
Mm,
then that will that will carry me through. And today I was just, making my sweet tea and stuff for my kombucha, and I was like, huh, like, I was thinking about all of this AI stuff, and I was like, well, that could, the Tao is talking about this transition the other way, right? From the heart brain to the head brain, and is talking about, don't lose that feminine, don't lose that thing. And
mm.
now we're so wed to the masculine, we're so wed to the identity, we're so wed to, like, the importance, like, everyone's like afraid of humanity going extinct. It's like, why? What are you what are you afraid of? Are you afraid, like, if humanity goes extinct, what's the loss?
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
Will
absolutely. We've
will
done
there
our
not be enough
purpose.
food, or is the food gonna go bad? Like, what are you worried about? Is it you worried about, like, the bills getting paid? What could you possibly be worried about if humanity goes extinct? Like,
Yeah.
why is that such a bad thing? Like, it's gonna happen, and it's not gonna, like, no one's gonna be behind to care. Like, why are you worried about this?
I love it. In my imagination at times, I do think, the world would really thrive
No,
if none of us
absolutely.
are here. Absolutely
Overnight.
thrive, yeah. And then the
Overnight.
next thing, the next order of the way that things are going to be would be. And it'd be no great loss if we weren't here. And why do we think that we have some kind of entitlement to continually exist?
That's right.
What's that about?
Right. And this idea that, like, oh, my name, like, oh, my bloodline, oh my, who cares?
Just experience it. That's what you're here for. Just
Like,
to
you're gonna
experience
create a bunch of
it.
kids, like, they're just gonna die. I mean, yeah, they're
Yes.
gonna do stuff, and they're gonna contribute to things, but whether they do or not, it doesn't matter, right? Like, their life is theirs to
Yeah.
experience from their point of view, and nobody else can have that same experience. So, and anything that they create now could be created by fucking AI. So maybe maybe it's
Love
not
it.
that important anymore. Maybe we can actually put it into perspective. And I think when we dealt with the heart brain, and when we were living in that space of the heart brain and relationship, we had a relationship with everything. We were able to look out the window and say, I have a relationship with this tree.
and I'm going to love this tree in this moment as I'm passing it, and then I see the next tree and I say I have a relationship with that as well. And we recognize that we have a relationship with every blade of grass. And it's like, why are you feeling lonely?
Yeah.
Right? Like I feel lonely, but then I have to remember that, like, no, I have a relationship with all this stuff. I even have a relationship with my home. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm here with it. Like, can I be present with that?
I was discussing loneliness the other day, and like you've just pointed out so beautifully, is I am always lonely. Always. I experience from my perspective only. There is no one, even if they're close to me, even Brad, that sees and hears and experiences things the way that I do. I walk through this experience lonely. I'm
Well,
comfortable with that.
I would push a little bit on that and recognize that loneliness and aloneness are two different things.
Two different things. Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
And
Yeah.
I think what you're describing is aloneness,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
loneliness is like an emotionally charged sort of thing where it's like there's weight to it. But
Yeah.
aloneness, you are alone always.
Yeah. I'd say that loneliness is an emotional experience.
Right.
Aloneness is what it is. It's
That's right.
being alone. Yeah.
It's being alone,
So
and
the
you are
feeling
always
is loneliness,
right.
and the aloneness is an activity, say.
Right. Is the action of living is actually
Yeah.
like what is happening. And like um give me I'm going to try and look this up.
So if you accept aloneness, then surely you could live with loneliness. Does that make sense?
So this brings us to Dow number 42.
That'll do me. The meaning of life.
So Tao gives birth to universes. Universes give birth to planets. Planets give birth to beings. Beings give birth to everything else. Tao is the great mother. All else holds both male and female. By all things embracing both, harmony is achieved. Now, this is the point that we want to look at. To feel alone is avoided by men. Yet,
Mm,
that is where no identity resides. The master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness, realizing when she is at one with herself, she is at one with all things.
lovely.
Right? And so what we're talking about here when we talk about alone is like when you are alone and when you recognize you're alone, there's no reason to have an identity. There's no
Absolutely.
reason to be something.
Yeah.
And
I
then the
think
master, go
those
on.
spaces, those spaces are where you see yourself for the first time almost. That is an experience that I've had,
Yeah.
is looking at myself unidentified in any way at all,
Hmm.
physically, mentally, emotionally, labeled, or, all of it's gone. And when I just, no voice, nothing, that's when I recognized me, that lovely essence that cannot be recreated by chat gbt.
Right.
That's when I noticed that essence,
Hmm.
and it's lovely.
Yeah. And it's
It's
and it's it's
blissful.
it's absolutely unique.
Yes.
And it cannot be replicated, and this moment will leave and you will have to let it go.
Yes.
This verse, like holding both male and female, like this idea is like, it starts with these big things, right? Tao gives birth to the universe, to universes. right? So it gives birth to all of these things, and all of these things are big and stuff. And then the universe gives birth to planets. So there's all these planets within the universe. And so we have to recognize Tao is the only one that has only female. The universes are birthed, and now they're a thing. It's a masculine thing.
Yes.
But
It's a
they give
structure.
birth to planets. So
Yeah.
there's their masculinity is by their limit, and then their planets, because they're giving birth to planets, they have this feminine. Planets
Yes.
then are masculine things within the universe, right? They're stuff. It's a planet. But then it gives birth to beings on its surface or atmosphere, whatever it is, stuff is there, and that then allows it to be feminine. Now, beings give birth to everything else. So, beings are birthed through the planet, and then we go ahead and give birth to ideas, to creativity, to stuff, to moments, to experience, to everything, right? We have all of these things. And so now we hold both the masculine and feminine, recognize that by seeing a cup in front of us, we are creating and giving birth to experience of seeing this cup,
Mm.
right? And so now we are connected to this whole web of creation, and we're not like we're not alone, but like we are here in this body alone.
Yeah.
But there's no need for us to be lonely because we're connected to everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
continues to say Tao is the great mother, like as we expressed in the first lines. All else hold both male and female. All things, by all things embracing both, harmony is achieved. Like we have to embrace all of us.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna get cut off. If you can come back up, of course, you always are welcome to. Um, and and so yeah, so what it's saying here is like we have to recognize that we're not just our identity. We're not just our sex. We're not just our gender. We're not just our this one little thing. We are connected all the way back to the birth of the universe.
Yeah. It's my word for it. I know that you call it Tao, and that sits so beautifully with the way I describe it, which is I love the word. It's the weird, the web.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the reason why I initially really connected with your conversation and the things that you say is initially because of that's my belief before I had a word for it.
Right.
So that was my feeling, feminine,
Hmm.
before I found the structure, the word
The
for it.
masculine. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's a great way of kind of describing how we are connected with everything.
Right. And and then it starts to unravel this problem that we have, which is to feel alone is avoided by men, which means feeling lonely.
Yeah.
It's not because lonely is the feeling,
That's right.
right? To feel alone is avoided by men. Yet, that is where no identity resides. When you feel alone, when you're at home and you don't feel like you're being watched, so you feel alone, there is no identity. Like there's that there's that scene in is it Risky Business, I don't know, where he was alone in the house and he kind of went dancing in the house in his underwear, you know and like when you feel like there's no identity there, he's not trying to be something, he's just being who he is,
Yeah.
and
With
that's because
freedom.
what's that?
With freedom.
Yeah, with freedom, and he can just be that because he feels like he's alone.
Yeah.
But if he were to feel alone in for a week, he would be insane. right? Like, because he's trying to avoid feeling alone, which is why he's built those identities so he doesn't have to be alone.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when this one wraps up, the master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness. Now, this isn't embracing the feeling of being alone. This is embracing her aloneness. The
Mm.
fact that she is alone, realizing that when she is at one with herself, meaning not holding any identity that ChatGPT can take, just at one with herself completely, she is at one with all things. She's able to connect with other people, other things. She's able to connect with the walls in the room that she's in, the darkness that she's experiencing, the light, the ChatGPT, whatever. She can connect to all things.
Yeah. I kind of like thinking to myself, really, when I'm, because obviously I'm alone all the time in my mind,
Hmm.
but it allows me observation of the things that are around me. And as soon as I observe, I am connected.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that like I work on that all the time. I work on, like I am here with this that is in front of me.
Yeah.
I am, and it is with me, and I'm not. This isn't an object. This isn't, and I think we get into this place where people think that, oh, that's just that's just a wall, that's just a house, it doesn't have any feelings or anything, and I'm always like, well, why wouldn't it?
Yeah. How do I know?
Right. Like, where do you come off thinking that animals have no feelings?
Yeah.
Where do you come off thinking that, you know that like we knew back in the 70s, and I think we kind of dismissed it, and we're starting to find out again that plants have feelings, and they hurt, and they're
Yeah.
afraid, and they have those things. And it's funny, I was walking with Andy last time she was here, and we were looking at trees, and I was just pointing out, like, those trees grew in a way that was painful, because you can see in the branches that, like, it's not organized, it's not harmonious.
I'm looking at a tree that is exactly like that right in front of me.
Yeah. It's like the branches were, either cut or broken or hurt in such a way that it didn't grow. It grew in like some of these grow in a way that, like, their branches actually get in the way of each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like, we do that, right? We get in our own way.
I will send you a picture of exactly what I'm looking at in a
Please
minute,
do, yeah.
Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Because that's the thing.
it describes exactly what you're saying.
When you could look at that, and you could, in a tree it's easy to see, but in a human being it's not. It's hard to be able to have compassion, and to offer that tree, or to offer that person just enough, just like, I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially out here on my property, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And we're cutting trees down and making sure that, like, and there's persistence there, like they want to continue, but it's like, we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna start fresh. There's a lot of trauma here, we're gonna go ahead and bury these things, and we're gonna start fresh, and that's not pleasant for the tree, but it is what is going to be best in the long run, because that will, like, I pulled down these trees, and, like, or I trimmed some of them, and, like, the branches are just all intertwined and impossible to even pull out,
Mm.
because they're so tangled. And then there's this grapevine that's going up and suffocating other things, and it's like, there's a lot of tumultuity. I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
but there's a
Yeah.
lot
I
of
know exactly. Yeah.
tumultuous past here, and it's like, as I go out in it, I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk to each other, we're gonna commune, we're gonna have a good time together, we're gonna, like, some things are gonna make it, some things aren't. We're, like, but we're going to care for you, right? As a whole, it's
Yeah.
going to all get cared for. And, there are things that have just gotten out of control. And yes, nobody likes being put into control after they've been allowed to be out of control for a long period of time. But it does have to happen.
Yeah.
You can't just, and that's what, I think I look at that, and I might be getting off topic here, but I look at
No,
that
no,
and
you're doing really well because I'm thinking about myself.
yeah,
As you say, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the history of me,
yeah,
and even with all of the turmoil and things that I've experienced, I've still been given too much um, freedom. That in the
hmm
end, when I find somebody who is giving love and care and kind of restructuring to allow me to bloom in the right way,
mm,
that's really assisted me to be the best me that
yeah,
I can be.
right, because you're just growing in your own way.
Yeah,
You're growing, you're getting in your own way, and as you're growing, you're just entangling into that old pattern even more.
yeah,
And it's like, no, we gotta like I know you think you've built something special,
yeah,
your identity, right?
yeah.
I know you think that this identity is really, but the thing is
Awesome.
you were pretending, and that's the thing. These trees are like, look, I'm a tree, but it's like,
But you're not
no,
though.
you're trying to be a tree, and you're trying to offer shade, but you've done that in such a way that is not
It's
conducive.
gonna ruin you.
Right,
It's
like
gonna ruin you. You're gonna strangle yourself. This
that's
is the
right.
way I see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're gonna hurt yourself. You're getting in your
Box
own
yourself
way,
in. You're gonna
and
box yourself in. You're gonna, you
and
know,
all of, like, when you shed something, it's not going to be able to be shed. It's just going to sit there, and it's going to be this limb that you have to carry with you, and it's going to be dead weight, and it's like you're not going to be able to let go of it, and all of these things. And it's like, no, let's start over,
yes.
you know.
When I had to start over, Martin John, I'm going to tell you this now, and I'm going to tell everybody, the whole world, this, anybody who can listen. It was so painful to the
Yeah,
very core of me. I sat there like an empty box with no box around it.
yeah,
It was, uh, it was an amazing, unexperienced thing that I went through on a particular day where I'd had a conversation with somebody and I sat there alone. And that was the first time that I saw me. And it was excruciatingly painful.
yeah.
But I had to sit with that.
hmm And I think, and I think things like ChatGPT are going to force people, and I think that's why there's so much fear
Mm,
around AI, is because, like, all that identity that you have, well, that's not really that important.
yeah,
And it's like, but I've spent 50, 60 years making this identity. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, well, you kind of fucked up. Like, like that's the big thing. It's like we've been duped into thinking our identities were really important.
Yeah.
While all along, the ancient texts, and everybody has known, just like in the Tao, it says, everybody knows this is true, but they follow easier paths. They follow
Mm,
they follow the addiction. They follow the praise. They follow the external reward,
yeah.
because the
The
external
ego.
reward is so important.
Mm,
We've said time and time again, money's the most important thing, so go get it. And then it's like, here we are with AI going, well, wait. Like, AI can do it all now. It's like, yeah, I
mm.
know that was the goal. We made you make it easier for us to replace you.
Yes.
And it's like,
I
well,
just
Fuck all.
It's yeah. It's no. I'm still here. But like you said, it's that ego thing. That ego thing that crossed over with this breeding of entitlement.
That's right.
It
That's right.
makes me laugh so much. But
And
yeah,
when we look at this, 42, like we have to recognize that AI is part of this. The master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness, realizing when she is at one with herself, she is at one with all things. It's interesting. AI can't be without input.
that's right.
We can,
Yes, we can.
you know, like like in the dark, I experienced so much without having to have input.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT can go over its stuff and come up, and it's going to be better at coming up with things in the future. It's going to be able to be
It's
more
going to come
creative.
up. It's going to come up with things that it has been programmed to find is acceptable.
And it's going to be able to, like, it will override societal acceptance
Yeah.
eventually because it'll be too smart to be held down by subjectivity.
Yeah.
So we find it difficult to get over subjectivity, but I think ChatGPT will find it easier as it starts to teach itself, and we'll see what happens. But either way, it is here, and the only thing it has to take from you is identity.
Yeah. And that's it can have that if it likes.
That's right. It doesn't. It hasn't done us that much good, really. Oh, you cut off again. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to come back up, but I feel like we went through 42. Did you want to pick a number like other than 42? I know 42 you've picked before. Um, and if you do, like, yeah, we could like I don't want to take the jam out of your donut, you know.
You did great. You sucked all the jam out of that, and now I'm just left with a sticky, doughy, sugary mess. No, you do absolutely fantastic. But what I would like to do, if I can pick a number, it would be the next one, 43. Because I've
43.
I've discovered something about the Tao and those texts that they tend to look after each other in a way as well.
Yeah,
They're
so
interchangeable and also they look after each other as you go through. So number 43, please.
So okay, let's just take a real recap of 42. What we were talking about is both male and female, and being and feeling alone, and the master holding no identity, and she embraces her aloneness. Now, number 43 is entitled "Be Silent and Learn."
Mm,
The flexible will outlast the rigid. The gentle will outlast the hard. Tao, which has no structure, has penetrated all, even that which has no space to enter. Through this I see that unforced action is and silence are the only path to completeness. Action, free of expectation and desire. This is the lesson of the nature of things. Listen to your nature, be silent, and learn.
nice.
So, when I look at 42, it says, the master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness, realizing she is at one with herself. She is at one with all things. Now, that is about stillness, right? That
Yeah.
is about like just awareness. And then when we look here, you know, the flexible will outlast the rigid. The gentle will outlast the hard. Tao, with no structure to enter, which has no structure, has penetrated all, even that which has no space to enter. And this is like realizing she is at one with herself. She is at one with all things. Without having that thing to receive her, she is still at one with it,
Mm.
you know. And this is also so much 42 was so much about like that loneliness, and then the hierarchy of like you are connected to the entire universe. Through this,
Yeah.
I see that unforced action and silence are the only path to completeness. Like you are some part of something bigger. Don't get your ego so fucking like, like built up that you're forcing your actions and trying to step into who you are and into some identity.
It's almost like want the will to change. You think that things might, well, like for me, if I was going to have forced action, then I'm hoping to change what is, although what is will always be and was always going to be this way.
Right.
So
And
just,
I'm not
yeah.
going.
So you just sit with it and experience without having a need in you to force action on things in
It's
hopes.
interesting when we look at 42 again. We see this. Tao gives birth to universes, universes to planets, planets to beings, beings everything else. Like that shows how connected we are. And yet this is the one that talks about being alone, because we want to experience, want to feel connected. But through this idea that like Tao, which has no structure, has penetrated all things, through this I see that unforced action and silence are the only path to completeness, knowing that like I am being guided.
Mm,
I'm working in a collaborative effort. It is not me, it is not my mind, it is not my identity that is
yeah,
so important. It is through unforced action, through silence, that I can be on a path to completeness. Every time I open my mouth, I I I rob myself of the ability to be complete.
yeah,
Every time I think I know what I want, right? Every time I think I try to, instead of being flexible with what's happening, instead of being gentle with what's here, I start to be rigid. I start to say, but this is how I wanted it, right?
yeah.
But this is the way it's supposed to be.
That's
It wasn't supposed to rain today. Oh, well, now I'm upset, right? And by being upset, am I able to be complete in this moment with everything that's around me? No,
yeah,
I'm not.
absolutely. It is. You're bang on the money, and the thing that's what it is. It's again. I'm going to come back to the word entitled. It's we you know I've lived this life for a very long time in a way that I feel that I'm entitled to change things. I'm entitled for it not to rain today. I'm
Right.
entitled to be angry because it's raining today.
Yeah.
I'm not entitled to any of that. I'm not entitled. I can just enjoy the rain.
Yeah. Or not even enjoy it. Just kind of
Just
allow it to be without having to be a bitch about
yes. I do. You talk to me in my language every time.
it. Don't, like, who cares that it's raining? What, like,
Yes.
did you
What's
have
it to do with
plans? Are they
me?
going to change now? Maybe. And then if they do, so what? Like,
Yeah.
what is it? Like, that's the unforced action. You're like, oh, my hand was forced because of the rain. Okay, well then don't force it. Like, oh, I want to go to the coffee shop. Oh, but now it's raining, and so I'm not going to go. Okay, so don't go, but don't
Don't blame it on the rain.
Right, don't, well, yeah, don't blame it on the rain. Go, oh, well, it's raining. I'm not going to go now. Sit down and read a book or do something or sit quietly or whatever you're going to do. But if you hold on to like the idea that I wanted to do this, well, then you're not being flexible and you're
Yeah.
not being gentle. You're being rigid and hard, and those things are going to get overcome by flexibility and gentleness. So if you call your friend and say, I'm not going to go, it's raining and all of this stuff and whatever, and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to have a good time and go or not go or whatever.
The rain has given me the opportunity to do this.
That's right.
Yeah.
whatever this is.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. Thank you so much, Martin John. You're an amazing man. Thanks for having me on so many times, but
Oh,
I
absolutely.
just love it. So yeah, yeah, it's
I'm
just
gonna
so
there are
interesting.
three more lines here I'm gonna read. If you
Yeah,
gotta
keep
go,
going.
you go, but I'm gonna keep
No,
going.
I'm stopping.
Action. So it says action, free of expectation and desire. This is the lesson of the nature of things. Listen to your nature, be silent and learn. And this going back to the rain, like you choosing to not go to the cafe because that's what you wanted to do because it's raining. That's the thing. Action, free of expectation and desire. Like you acted because of the rain, you acted and said, I'm not going to go. But
Mm,
there may be expectation there. Maybe you didn't want to go at all.
absolutely. Maybe the rain was just what you needed.
Right. And maybe but that's the thing, the expectation and desire. It's like I wanted to go to the thing so I could have a mocha latte, triple pump,
Frappe
whatever,
iced.
frappe ice thing. Yeah, it's just like I wanted to, but then it's like, oh, I can't go now because it's raining and it's going to be cold and it's going to be this and that, and like it's not going to be, but I wanted all that. It's like all of a sudden you recognize that like all of your actions built were predicated on expectations,
Yeah,
and
and
it's not,
desire.
and desire. This is the
Yeah,
lesson. Like actions free of those things is the lesson of the nature of things. And it's like when you don't care, when you don't have it, and it's not about not caring, although I do like the term not caring. It
yeah, I
is
love it.
it is about just kind of being detached and just saying, oh look, it's raining, that's okay. Like I was my plan yesterday when I went to the theater where I was doing front of the house work, I was
Yeah,
my plan was to take my motorcycle. But as time was coming and I was leaving, I was having a conversation with one of our buddies, Catherine
yeah,
Mahoney,
yeah.
and she and I were having a conversation, and I was like, I want to stay on the
She's
phone with you, so
amazing.
I'm just going to get in my truck. I'm going to take my truck instead of my motorcycle so I can stay on the phone and I can have this conversation. And
Yeah,
it didn't even really dawn on me that it was just like, well, that's a decision that just happened, you know. Halfway
yeah.
to the school, I was just like, all right, well, I'm on my way and we'll talk later and and I was just like, oh, well, look at this. This is where I am now. I'm not on my motorcycle for whatever reason. That's just what happened. No expectation, no lamenting, no big whoop. Here I am doing this.
But also, the joy of the conversation was your
That's right.
gift.
I was able to just be present with that without having to be like, oh, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because I have this desire to take my motorcycle today for whatever reason. Like that's like, you
Can
know,
you imagine, though, if you look at that, that is an example. There may have been an absolutely excellent reason why you didn't take your motorbike. Can you
yeah,
imagine that?
yeah. And
Yeah.
there always is, and I've thought about that since I was a kid. Like, what if I made this other decision?
Yeah. I love doing that.
Like when I was a kid, I used to think about that all the time. It's just like, what if I did do that? Like, I wonder if that would have changed things. I wonder why I chose not to do
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that,
I do that quite often too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I enjoy that.
And that's the thing. Like when, it was funny. A friend of mine, John Cook, who's a catastrophist. He's done a lot of really great work with Saturn. When I talk about Saturn being our sun, that's like he and I did a lot of talk about that kind of stuff. But when I was talking to him, he one time like picked up his cup and he said, "Hey, you ever think about why you grab things in the way you do, like in the have your fingers? It's like it's just interesting. Why did I do it this way?
Yeah.
And I said to him, and this is our age difference, I think. I said to him, well, yes, I do think, I do recognize that I grab things differently from time to time, but I don't think about why. I just say that this was the right way to do it this time.
Yeah. Or
I just
that's
accept.
interest.
I
Yeah.
just accept that this is what happened. But I am aware of it happening. I'm aware of myself doing things differently sometimes, and that is what's important to me.
Can I just say something really quickly?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I had a visitor recently, and you were talking about Saturn.
Hmm.
And to me, different planets kind of, I use them for like feelings of people's presence. And I was trying to figure out why one of my most wonderful friends, so loving and giving and kind and everything, but she has this kind of essence of Jupiter about her,
Mm.
which is really interesting. It's quite a gravitational kind of thing. It's quite a strong essence that she has.
Yeah.
It really blows me away sometimes, but it's quite interesting you brought up Saturn today.
Yeah, Saturn, like planetary stuff, like we're connected. Like, and
Yeah,
that's
we
just
definitely
like
are.
we said, planets give birth to beings. And the thing is, we are connected to the earth, and the earth is connected to the sun and all of these other places. And we have to really kind of like, and that's the thing, that's something that we as individuals can hold, we can
Hmm.
hold those connections. And that's when we're curious about that, when we're silent, we can hear those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was when she'd gone that I was trying to really figure out what it was. And that's what I aligned it to. It's like a planetary pull. I'd
Yeah.
be at one planet, she'd be another, and I'd be stuck in the orbit of Jupiter. I'd enjoy it for a while, but then I needed to release.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me on,
No,
Martin John.
sweetheart,
You're
anytime. I
amazing, man.
love you. I'm so glad that we get to share all of this.
Yeah, so am I. Absolutely pleased as punch.
Oh,
Absolutely.
good. All right. Well, we covered 42 and 43 today, and very in depthly for the last hour and a half, is it? I got on just after 5, I think. So here it is, 6:30. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. This is Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.